Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain bikes, you are in the right place. Picture your last really fun group ride. You're back at the parking lot. Everyone's stoked. Maybe you hit something new, progression. You're talking tech. You're talking nutrition. Everyone's excited. You love bikes. We love bikes. We're talking bikes every week. Ride and Laugh podcast. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic, Danny, although I do have to make one correction. And I feel like we start every show now with we have one correction we have to make from the past episode.
Oh, I have a correction too. I wonder if it's the same correction.
I doubt it. Should I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. I noticed that you said DGI and then I said DGI. Like it was one of those things. If I hear someone say a word, then I repeat it that way. It's actually DJI. And I just wanted to make that very clear in case people were like, yeah, it's DJ.
Oh, man. I've been saying it wrong all along. This is like the enduro turn all over again.
I said it right after you did. I said DJI. But yeah, I'm sorry, DGI, but it's DJI.
Okay, and we're talking about my action camera, just to
that's
bring
right.
everyone
That's
up to
correct.
speed. Yes.
Yes.
It's funny because I have all my hard drive, all the folders are labeled DGI.
I know.
I have had no chance to say this correctly. I got it wrong at some point, and it's just stayed that way. Oh boy, that's so funny. Yeah, so anyone watching on YouTube, you can see my background is different. I am in Arizona with my family. We have a little investment property out here in the Phoenix area. And so I bring my microphone, I bring my webcam and my laptop, and we are still podcasting. We do this. We're doing this every week, and we love it. And thank you, everyone, for listening. But that might be why you see a little bit of a different background. And I also kind of bumbled through the opening as if I hadn't done it. This is the 20th time, and all of a sudden they changed the order all around. But, I have a really bad memory, and it keeps things fresh.
I like that you change it up every time. Like I noticed that you add little things here and there, and you take out other things. I like it.
Yeah, it's inadvertent. It's purely just... I don't practice it. The first few I did when we were first starting, I was doing that in the car. Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. Anyways, here is my corrections on episode 19, which is hilarious, and I've already listened to it twice. Gosh. It's so funny. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, it really is. It's really good. But we talk about one of the terms that we talk about and kind of make fun of is false flats, and we say false flat, because we're mountain bikers, and that is a term. And then as you were talking, I was like, no, it's not false flat. Doesn't make any sense. It's false top. It's not false top. It is false flat. False flat is the term.
Yes.
We kept referring to it, and then I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then we made fun of it, and we should make fun of it because it doesn't really make sense. But I think it's a false flat because it's going to go back up.
That's right. But yes.
You think it's the top.
That's right. Yeah. Regardless, it's terrible. Yes.
So we want to talk about our listener comments and the feedback we got from episode number 18, Full Arse Ahead. Also another very funny episode. And then the two hot takes that came out of that was Crazy Loop, would you ride this? And the other one was Nope or Dope, and that was the Scorpion. And and then we were also coming up with names. We asked the listeners to come up with names for the rotating teeter-totter that is not finished yet. And that was highlighted in that episode. I really like the name that you came up with was Row Teeter, which I think is actually quite outstanding. But our buddy Rusty Chain, Pat, came up with the Terror Totter.
Oh, I like that.
And that got a few votes. A few people chimed in that they were like, yeah. And we had a couple other suggestions.
I like Terror Totter. That's kind of hot. I mean, we can let this go another week before we officially name this thing. I mean, it's not even done yet.
All right, listener, let us know what that's true. Let us know what you think. Maybe we need to ride it and see how painful it is when you fall off of it. Is it truly the Terror Totter? But listeners, let us know what you think. We have narrowed it down. If you have another name for the rotating skinny, you can go back and look at episode 18 if you want to see it on the YouTube. But right now we're voting on Rotator or the Terror Totter. And
two excellent choices.
Two really good names. Yeah, Teeter Totter is that's really good. It's really good. It's really good.
I have to tell
good
you,
job,
Danny,
Pat.
I have to tell you that Pat's name might not work anymore, and here's why. I rode by it on my ride, and Fred has put planks on either side of this thing, so it's now like 2 feet wide. So you can stand on the teeter totter, and it's not very terrifying. I have to say, it's not very terrifying anymore. Yes.
Okay. Oh, well, I think we need to ride it before we can name it then.
All right. We'll have to ride it before we name it. You can hear the disappointment in my voice.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed. Yes, it looks like a giant piece of plywood on top of this thing. It's that wide.
Oh, really? So you could put both feet down. You could put either foot down.
You could put both feet down and ride this thing. You can basically stand with your bike and ride this thing down, then get back on your bike and ride off.
Oh, yeah. Sounds a little. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So you can always take more wood off of it, right?
I guess so, except that it is dependent on weight and balance. And so if he has that much weight for it to teeter, then the pulley system is pulling up on a weight.
That's true.
It's very finicky. So you have to have that part nailed down. So he said he was going to do it that way, and he did. And I rode by and I was like, oh man, you know what, Danny, I don't want to get into it because I know you got a ton more comments, but here's how I feel. I feel like by making it that wide, there's no more challenge, because now you can ride up onto the skinny. You could take your feet off the pedal, put them on either side, ride the skinny I did that very well, by the way. If you're on the podcast, you can't see what I just did, but I just basically rotated my seat. You could basically rotate, put your feet back on the pedal, and then exit off of this thing.
Like, you don't get credit for turning in your seat.
Yeah. Well, no. and you don't get credit for this teeter totter either.
Yeah. You know what? The teeter totter is just as easy as now swiveling in an office chair. And I'm doing that right now. Well, We'll see how easy it is. And just because you can put your feet down doesn't mean that doing it without putting your feet down is going to be easy.
Yeah. I think I agree, Danny. I just think you and I have had this conversation before about, do you make it so everyone can enjoy it, or do you leave things there so that you can work up to something? And right now, the way that the teeter-totter looks, I haven't rode it, but the way that it looks like everyone can do it. Anyone that has, you could have a kid's, balance bike and you could do it, and that's great, right? That's great that everyone gets an opportunity to do this. But then again, it's like, okay, well, you just took the challenge out of doing this thing. So people that were more advanced, that wanted to try, riding up on this and actually treating it like a teeter-totter, one, and then two, the rotation of it really took some skill. And like you said, we haven't ridden it yet, so maybe it will be really difficult, but I don't know. The fact that you could stand on either side kind of takes a little bit away from, for me at least. That's how I feel.
Would you feel better if there was crocodiles underneath it, or maybe spikes? What if they put spikes under it just to increase
spikes.
To increase. It sounds like you wanted this to be harder, higher consequence. So what if we just put like a pit of snakes underneath it? Would that make you feel better?
Let me say it this way. It's the difference between a tabletop and a gap jump, right? At tabletop, anyone can do it.
Language.
Yeah, there's no consequence. Anyone can do a tabletop. There's something about, and so you could make the argument that no more gap jumps. Every jump in the world should be a tabletop jump. But is that right? Is that fair? For the people that, like for me, when I get to a gap jump, and obviously I have problems with lippy jumps, but if it's a ramped jump, I can do a gap. And that adds an element of like excitement to the whole thing. Like I feel a sense of accomplishment when I do that because of the commitment level. If you miss on a gap jump and you case, it could be dunzos. And so when you go across that gap, I just feel like there's a bigger sense of like, oh my gosh, like that the Stoke level is even higher. That's not to say that, that doesn't exist on a tabletop jump. I just think it's a little bit different. and I don't know, Danny, I'm going on and on here. What do you think? Am I crazy?
These are no, really interesting topic. Listener, what do you think? Do you get more stoked by clearing a tabletop jump versus a gap jump? Is there a difference in the sense of accomplishment? I haven't done that many. I mean, we've done some gap jumps, but clearing a tabletop jump is also really, really fun. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, just because there's a table there and you can work your way up to it, it doesn't make it really less fun when you start hitting backside and clearing it perfectly. But I do see what you're saying. There's higher consequence. I also know that like if some of these big tabletop jumps at bike parks were gaps, I would never try them. But meanwhile, I've been working my way up to them, and now I do clear some of them. Yeah. So you're already so good at riding skinnies. Your balance is so good that you're already kind of like expert level, elite level at those sorts of things. But people want to work up to that. So yeah, but then it's a rotating. I mean, the whole point of having the rotating skinny, I don't know, is that it's like pro level, right? It's a double black.
Yeah. I mean, listen, every other skinny on Twisted Sister is available for everyone to do. Like there's, aside D. Snyder, you can pedal kick off. Everyone can do all of these things. And there's Low Boy. That has no consequence whatsoever. It might be the hardest skinny on that trail, but there's no consequence to it. I mean, that is literally the hardest skinny and it's like less than a foot off the ground. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, I don't know, like, okay, Dan, the Wayne's Trail and those gap jumps. Would you have been so excited if they weren't gapped, if they were tabletop? Be honest. I mean, I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying. I mean, that's what I was thinking of when you were saying the tabletop versus the gap, and I'd like to say that I would be, but I don't know. I mean, clearing a gap jump, there's definitely extra adrenaline in there because the consequence of not doing it, the commitment. Yeah. I asked you that one time that if on these lippy jumps, do you think you would do better if they were gapped because you have to go full send? Yeah. You can't like just be like, oh no, I'm just going to slow down, and like you have to full commit.
Yeah.
But you didn't think that was a good idea because you're not ready for that.
I didn't say it wasn't a good idea. I think that they should have more gap jumps at bike parks. I would not do them, but this is exactly my point. You should, like, not everything should be made for everyone. Like, just because I can't do a gap jump doesn't mean that the rest of the world should not be able to do gap jumps. Well, Sage can't do it, so let's make every jump in here a tabletop. That's ridiculous. I know I can't do it, so that gives me something to work up to. I'm actually excited about that prospect of someday being able to clear a tabletop jump, and maybe in the future has a gap, that I'll become that good. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with getting to a feature and working my way up to it, not being able to get it and going at it 100 times and practicing. I'm okay with that. I don't get to that feature and I'm not like, well, this isn't fair and everyone should be able to ride it. Why can't I ride this? That's not how I look at it. And I wonder if that's just old school of me. Maybe it is old school of me and maybe that's stupid. I don't know.
Well, you want to be challenged. I mean, you want to be challenged, and skinnies is something that you're really good at, and it's tough for you to get challenged. And so the rotating skinny you were excited about, and if it's less challenging than you thought, if it's not a pro level line, and we'll see what it is when we actually ride it. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but it's an interesting point. It's an interesting point. I feel like bike parks. I'm sure there are bike parks where there's gap jumps, there's pro lines. We went to Highland and there was the pro line that you could see from the lift, and
oh my,
it's super next level. So, and some of these things are crazy. If you're running a bike park, you want tabletop jumps. First of all, you have the resources. I mean, I think a lot of times that you don't have the tabletop is because you don't have the dirt to fill in the gap. It's a lot of work. It's a lot more dirt. Yeah, it's just a lot more. Instead of just building a takeoff and a landing, you're filling everything in. So it's a ton more work and resources.
Yeah.
So if you have a bike park and you can do that and people can practice and land on the top and not get hurt, that's the other thing, right? Yeah. So if you have a bike park, you don't want people casing it and missing and landing in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know, Danny. I don't know. I do feel like maybe I'm on an island by myself. I think back to Hans Ray, which is a huge drop / gap. It's step down. I don't know how you want to call it, but there is a drop aspect to it. If that was filled in, would I have been, high-fiving and hugging Logan? And I don't think I would have been as excited. If there was a ramp connecting the very top to the landing and I cleared it, but there was a ramp underneath it, I don't think I would have been excited. I really don't. Like, I would have been happy, but this was like a feeling of like, oh my God, it took me 4 years to get over that fear of, God forbid I case. And I was like, no, I'm going for this. I'm not letting my fear control me anymore. I have the skills. I have the skills to do it because I've been practicing on places that did have tabletops and ramps so I know I can clear this. And now can I put that to the test? And that feeling, Danny, of clearing that and you clearing that.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, bro, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, you're right. It wouldn't have been as exciting. It wouldn't have been. So
Right.
I mean, we want hard things. We want hard things on trails. We want depends where you ride. I mean, Mount Penn has a lot of that stuff. It's got a lot of hard things. And a lot of those skinnies are already really hard. And there's other features. There's other places that we haven't been talked about in a while. That has some skinnies and some tough lines. I don't know if we want to make this the topic. This is very interesting conversation.
Sorry,
but yeah, no, it's really interesting. And you've talked about this before, listener. What do you think? What are your thoughts on gap jumps versus tabletops? What are your thoughts on making something kind of safer, but also maybe less consequential? Does that take something away from it? Is it more fun to do something like a gap jump? Is it more fulfilling to do something when it's higher consequence or just a little bit harder? There's so much really hard stuff already at Mount Penn, Sage, and you're already so good at so much of that stuff. You do it kind of second nature.
And also, Danny, I don't want to make it sound like I don't want all features to be like that. I'm saying that both ends of the spectrum need to be covered. There should be green trails and blue trails that allow people to do smaller drops or work up to bigger drops or have roll downs. And if you didn't want to if you wanted to drop it instead of the roll, you could. I want there to be options, but I also want the opposite of that too. I want there to be lines that people have to work for, and that you have to progress to get to. Like, I want both of those things. I don't want to come off like
Mount
a
Penn
complete
has
jerk.
so much of that.
It does.
Mount Penn
really, really does.
So many like pro level lines that like you really have to know where they are. Someone needs to show you that. So many times people have asked you for a tour and they want to see the tech. And we've talked about this before. And then you were like, okay, well, here it is. And I'm like, oh, looks way harder than it does on camera.
Yes.
So
yes.
That stuff's out there if you could find it. Most riders aren't riding that. And so most places aren't just that. Most places are going to be a mixture of kind of blue, green, maybe some black, and then a little bit of double black, depending on where you are, where you live. Listeners, let us know, where do you live? Like, how many pro lines do you find? Is it hard to find really difficult things where you live? Or is it hard to find the easy things? Are there gap jumps? Are there tabletops? Do you have things to practice on? Do your local trails? If you just, in the Philadelphia area where we live, if you just ride Wissahickon and Belmont and Harmony Hill and Marsh Creek, the stuff that we rode really for years, but like the local trails around the Philadelphia area, you're not doing I don't think there's any double black stuff in there. Maybe Wiss has some.
You just brought up an excellent point, Danny. At the Wiss, there was a couple spots at the Wiss that were notoriously difficult. And I think there's actually one or two features that I still have yet to get. But I recently went back, like, I think it was like 6 months ago. I went to the WIS. As you know, I go to the WIS like once a year because I don't really enjoy it there.
Yeah.
But somebody had made an alt line around these features, and it really upset me because once the alt line is built, it's kind of like when someone builds a route around a log, you're not going to do the log over anymore. You'll just go around it, and it got me really upset. Yeah. It got me really upset because I couldn't do it, but I was looking forward to that challenge. I really wanted to do it. And somebody had gone and kind of made a build up out of this massive step up move. And it kind of bummed me out, Danny, but that's a really good example of like that person, whoever did that, didn't want to get off their bike and walk it. They were frustrated and they're like, well, I can't do it. So no one's going to be able to do it. I'm going to, you know, put a bunch of rocks here and make an alt line.
That's lame.
And there you go.
That's lame. I don't like that.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Not really, because we're talking about a skinny that rotates but the gist of it.
Yes, I mean so the WIS is a in-city public park, and there's trails there, and there's organizations that work on them, but there's certainly not policed or anything like that. And my point being that, like, if you were just riding some of these local places, you wouldn't be riding any double black lines or really progressing into some really hard things unless you seek them out, unless you went to Mount Penn or Sal's or Emmaus. We got to get to Emmaus. I've heard there's some really cool double black lines there. So somewhere Lehigh. When I was looking at the Lehigh Valley, we talked about the Lehigh Valley riding the club. Well, what was it? Valley Mountain Bikers, right? We talked about them last week.
Bikers. Yeah.
And I went on their website so I could put a link in the show description, and I was looking at the other trails that they maintain, and one of them's Emmaus, and I pulled up the trail forks, and there's quite a bit of red. Which is the pro line, the double blacks in there. Yeah. It's not a huge ride, but as we know from Sal's, it may not need to be if if it's climby and punchy and full of baby heads. So all right. Really, that's so. I mean, that's just this is the sort of thing that Sage and I debate usually over a cup of coffee and a muffin. That he wants certain things to be harder, and but. And I agree. I like doing hard things. We're going to talk about the rides that I've been doing this week since I'm in Arizona. I like doing hard things. Also, I'm not upset about the road teeter or terror teeter being a little bit easier, but that's just because I'm not that good at those things. I want to be able to do it. But you know what? I would try it. I would try it if it was still pro line. I would visualize it, and I would work my way up to it, and I would try it, and that would be something in my head that I wanted to get, and I would overcome it. I will overcome. We overcome. We put something. We manifest it. We think about it. We put positive energy towards it, and we overcome. And overcoming obstacles on the trail and overcoming obstacles in our life. That's what it's about. And that's why it feels so good. That's what we're here for. We're here to keep progressing. We're progressing our mountain bike skills. Maybe even we're just unlocking our mountain bike skills, because I really believe for a lot of us, the skills are in there. We just need to get out of the way. Yes. But we're progressing on the trail, and then we're progressing in life. We're figuring out how that we can get past obstacles and how we can go with the flow of life more, and that, that we're really supported and things are going to work out for us. And so, I like difficult features. I like thinking about them. I like getting them and then overcoming them, and then getting to the point where, hey, this thing is not that hard anymore. I got this now. Yes. I got this, right? I'm good at this.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's slab.
I rode. Yeah. Not the character for the show. The older generation's like, we know he's a character, but how does he relate to the conversation? Yeah. And younger people are just like, who the hell are these people? The Sam Malone slab, which, at one time, like, we studied and looked at and was super scary, and now it's very routine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent example. So, yes, overcoming obstacles, doing hard things, it feels good because it's what we're here for. Whether it be on the bike or in life, it's what we're here for. We're here to to face our fears and overcome, and that feels good. That feels awesome. And mountain biking just encapsulates that so much. We talk about this all the time, right? The crossover of life and mountain biking, and the how mountain biking is a proxy for that, for life in so many ways. And overcoming an obstacle on the bike feels so good, but also in life, when we overcome obstacles and we whether it be a job or a relationship or a friendship or whatever's going on in your life, or just a different perspective, or just going with the flow, just listening to your intuition, training, taking the 2 weeks off that I took off, just listening to intuition, going with the flow, and watching things, be curious how things are going to work out for you. Yeah. How is this going to work out for me? And then you could do the same thing on the bike also. I'm curious that, how am I going to get that much better at jumping? But if you put it in your mind, then you're going to practice it. You're going to seek out places where you can do it, and you're going to watch more videos on it, and you're going to visualize it, and you're going to get it. You're going to unlock it.
I'm this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you get back to the comments of the week. I just want to say the feeling that I'm talking about, because what you just said kind of resonated with me. If drops and gap jumps make you nervous, then forget that. Get that out of your head. Think about a climb or a segment that you were trying to get, and you trained your rear end off to get this climb, right? And then that feeling of all this work that you've been putting into the mental preparation, the training to get this climb, okay? And you get this climb, and what is that feeling, right? So there's that part of it. Imagine what that feels like. That's the feeling that I'm talking about when you accomplish one of these things that's really difficult. Maybe it's not a drop, maybe it's not a gap or whatever. It's that same feeling, Now imagine, here's a totally separate point. Imagine if someone made a trail going around that climb, so you no longer had to do that climb. So this climb, you're like, oh, I'm going to really work at this summer. I'm getting that climb. I'm going to do this climb. And you've just been training. You've been training and you train and train. You get to the trail, and suddenly that trail does not exist anymore.
Tunnel.
Someone made
There's a tunnel that goes through the hill.
There's a tunnel that goes through the
Nobody goes up over the hill anymore. Now there's a tunnel that goes through the hill. What the heck? What am I going to do with all this fitness? That's a bullshit.
That's
tunnel.
Right.
Cheaters.
That's right. But yes, you would be pretty upset if you had trained really hard and then you got to the trail and suddenly, there was a tunnel or a switchback climb instead. And you'd be like, what the heck? I really wanted to get that.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that I'm talking about.
Or you just started getting it. That's even worse. Like you got it once.
Oh, yes.
And you're like, oh, yeah, I got this thing, And then you're going out with your riding buddies and you're like, yo, I got this climb last time. And I'm going for it. Yeah. Guess who did get it? I'm going for it. You don't even say anything. You just pull into the front. And you're just like, yeah, I'm going to get this in front of all my friends. I'm ready. And then you get there. You can do it. You already did it once. It's really hard. You're ready to set a PR, personal record. And you get there and there's a tunnel. That someone drilled a tunnel through the hill, and now everyone just goes straight through. And
that's the feeling I'm talking about.
I hear you. So, but what's to be done? What's to be done? Yeah. So I understand this all comes back to you being disappointed about the terror teeter or rotator or whatever we're going to call it. Just looking like it's not as difficult. I mean, you tried it at like ultimate difficult level. So
I did. Yeah.
I want it to be difficult too. When he said he was going to widen it, I was like, I'm okay with that. And you were like, I could tell that you were, start taking your anti-widening stance. I didn't think he was going to widen it so much that it was anti-widening. You know what you are? You're an anti-widener. Wideners, go ahead and write in, and you can complain. Go ahead and write in and complain about this anti-widener. We want wider trails and wider features.
Yeah, see? Wider trails.
We like narrow, single track.
I'm also not oh man, we're going to lose so many subscribers after this episode. I'm also not a machine trail built guy. Like I enjoy them. Like, what was a great example was the Palisades mountain biking did the, what was that trail? The Tuxedo, New York? Sterling. That had a good mixture of machine built flow trail, but then there was some ridiculously great single track, but like. Yeah,
South has that. South has the Nacho Supreme.
That's right.
We talked about last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine getting to Sal's and like somebody had taken all the rocks out? They're like, forget these baby heads. Yeah, got rid of all the baby heads. They're like, these are scary.
Rescue all these baby heads.
We're just going to rescue all. Yeah, that's right. And then just made it all machine built. I would be pretty upset. I would be like, part of the charm of Sal's was getting through 100%. These tough rock gardens. Yeah.
But that's what's great about some of these features is they can't be changed. They can't be made easier. You can't take the baby heads out of Sal's. You can't take the rock gardens out.
I don't know.
I mean, I guess you could come in with a ton of dirt and put it on top. I don't want to challenge anyone. I mean, trail builders are, if you're listening and you're all into flow trails. I think most people prefer flow over tech.
I think they do. Yeah. I think they do.
Yeah, you're alienating a lot of people right now. Listeners, please, if Sage is alienating you, please know that you're also listening to me. And I love, I actually don't love flow trails. But you know that by now, right? We talked about this enough. That the only time we ever ride flow trails is to get to the next tech trail.
Oh, I thought you were going to say downhill park.
Yeah, well, at downhill parks, I love flow trails at downhill parks. Yeah, absolutely.
But listen, and we're not saying, okay, you know what? No, they can listen to me because I actually do like flow trails. What I'm saying is there are places that I go to.
You don't even want to go to Bentonville. He doesn't want to go
Bentonville
because he thinks it's too flowy.
No, you didn't.
It's like the mountain bike mecca of the world. Yes. It was going to be a separate podcast, but it's so frustrating. I talk about Bentonville, and he's like, I don't know. Mecca schmecca.
Mecca schmecca. What I was going to say is there are trails that I go to that I know it's going to be flow. I'm expecting flow, but if I'm going to Mount Penn, if I'm going to Sal's or pick a place that's just gnarly around you and you get there and all of a sudden it's someone has come in and just kind of machine built over top of your favorite gnar trails because more people enjoy flow. That would get me upset. That's happening at the WIS. And if you have a multi-use trail system around you, especially around the city, you've probably noticed this happening. When Danny and I first started riding at the WIS, which is short for Wissahickon, this place, I mean, it was just all rocks. It was such a hard ride.
It was a creek bottom. It felt like you were just riding through dry creek beds.
That's right. Up
and down the mountain. Yeah.
It was so challenging, Dan. It was just built on rock. And little by little, they started taking out the rocks. I don't know how they did it, but they took out the baby heads.
It had erosion issues.
Fair enough.
I think they brought in a lot of dirt. Yeah.
They did. But all the trails that get built there now are machine built. And they, you could make the argument, well, they do go back to nature and they get eroded and the rocks start to come back through. My point is, and the WIS is a bad example because it is a multi-use trail, right? It's a multi-use trail by the city. Yeah. So you would expect it to happen, except that if someone doesn't have the ability to get to a Mount Penn and the WIS was the only place that you had and suddenly they took away all your gnar, now where do you go? They took out all the challenge.
So it's really two different things. It was making trails easier, and then you have, which is like the trail builder or whoever's actually like bringing in dirt and rerouting. And look, if there's erosion issues and they have to make it easier, or they have to make it the correct way, and they bring in equipment to do so, that is what it is. Some of these parks these trails are really old and they're not draining right. So it's a fine line. But as far as someone just like cutting away a log that is rideable or adding, an alternative line that's a go around so that you don't have to do the hard feature or the hard climb or building an entire tunnel through a hill. I mean, that's ridiculous. I would say just train to go over the hill. I mean, get an e-bike. Right.
Yeah.
But apparently it's happening because that was in the example that we used earlier.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. Anyway, you were saying about comments that you were getting. I'm so sorry that I commandeered.
This is
Like, what happened?
Is definitely the episode. This is definitely the episode. I love it. I love it. We never come. We come in with a plan, and I would say the last 4 or 5 podcasts we have not hit that plan. You could probably tell listening because we've done really long rants on baby heads and false flats and top tubes, mountain bike dating apps. So we're just having fun, but it's all in the context of mountain biking. So if you're listening, obviously you're a mountain biker, you like mountain biking, and then it's just like it's wherever the conversation goes. So I thought this is a great conversation. I think it's really, really interesting. Listener, absolutely. RideandLaugh1 at Gmail if you want to email us separately, but comments on the YouTube really help the algorithm. And also it's kind of a community place where you can write in and someone can reply. Let us know your thoughts on this, on how hard the trails should be and if they should be making them easier for all skill levels, or we should be having difficult trails in spots. But is it dangerous? But part of the mountain biking is dangerous. I mean, there's an inherent danger to it. You know, like if you're going to start mountain biking, you're gonna eventually fall off your bike. We're riding bikes on rocks, so or flying through the air on them. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of is inherently dangerous, and I think 99% of mountain bikers are at peace with that. Wouldn't you say?
I don't know, Danny. That's what I'm saying. I think that the landscape of mountain biking. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the landscape of mountain biking has changed. I think it's changed a lot. The people that are coming into mountain biking now, I think, look for flow trails, and I think they look at YouTube and they see, all these pro riders getting massive air and they're doing whips and tail whips. And it's like, yeah, I want to do that. Well, you're not doing that on jank. Like the stuff that we like to ride, the slow speed tech, that's not sexy. And the hard.
No, but there's a lot of mountain bike YouTube. I mean, maybe it's just what I'm watching, so it's what comes up in my algorithm. But there's a lot of mountain bike YouTube that focuses on the technical trails. Like you can watch a mountain bike YouTube video on Whistler, and they can do A-Line and Dirt Merchant, which are two of like the real famous jump lines. But they're also getting into a lot of the tech trails there that look really, really difficult. And so those videos are out there, and a lot of the riders are doing both in a video. So I think there's a lot of interest in riding big slabs and big tech or jumps and drops that are within the context of a really raw trail like Remy Metallier does. Ooh. So he rides tech and jumps, but mostly tech. Crazy tech. Awesome rider.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you definitely have
these guys are.
Yeah, you definitely have outliers like Remy and that are doing, but I don't think that's the majority of people. I think the majority of riders out there look for flow trails. I could be wrong. Listeners, let me know. When you go out to a place.
Yeah, definitely comment. Listeners, definitely comment flow or tech. What do you prefer? And which is more fun? And which do you want to get better at? So flow or tech? I mean, this is probably an age-old mountain bike question, right? As far as I'm just curious, because I'm curious what our listeners think. You might be right. I think you're definitely right that more mountain bikers in general enjoy flow. It's easier, it's safer, it's really fun. Getting really into the flow state on a flow trail feels great, and it's easier to get there than riding really dangerous high tech. I think high consequence tech. But our listeners, I wonder, do you guys kind of veer towards tech a little bit because we talk about that so much, or is it just that you found this mountain bike podcast that that you really like, and gratitude for listening? We do like flow trails. I mean, we haven't been to a bike park in a while. Someone has a broken bike, and someone is the other someone is in Arizona, so it doesn't matter anyway. But we're gonna hit bike parks. We're gonna hit flow trails. We're gonna be working on jumps, and we're gonna be talking about that. So we're certainly all for it. But we don't. If we have a trip, if we have a mountain bike vacation, we'll say here we want to hit this bike park. and then we're going to hit these tech trails here and these tech trails here and these tech trails here. We're not looking for, there's certain places you can go that are really famous for their flow trails, and that's not what we're seeking out. So at a bike park, we want to practice going downhill. We want to practice berms, but we also want to do like the big jumps. We also want to like do the big drops. The really challenging things at the bike parks. And we're going to manifest that. More abundance, more time to ride, more bikes. I have enough bikes, but Sage needs more bikes. So we're manifesting all that. New full suspension bike. It's happening. No.
Listen.
That noise is not necessary, by the way.
No.
Everyone's like, wait, Dan's making a noise? I didn't know you had to make a manifesting noise. He never said this.
Manifesting noise. That's so funny. Listen, I want you to finish up the comments of the week because I love the comments of the week. But then I also want to get to your ride because your ride was amazing. And
we're still at the beginning of the pod.
We're still at the beginning of the pod.
We're still at the beginning of the podcast. We're still in the comments.
Yes.
All right. Well, okay. All right. So let me move on with the comments because this is a really interesting conversation, I have to say. But let me move on with the comments. I wanted to shout out Erin Badaracco, who has just commented several times about the upbeat and that he's getting his positive vibes on Wednesday morning when the Ride and Laugh podcast comes out. And I love that. You know, the comment doesn't have to be real deep or meaningful. If you want to answer one of the questions we threw out, great. But if you're enjoying the podcast and you're listening to a bunch of them, then
let us know.
Let us know. Yeah, let us know. Like it feels really good, and we're having so much fun doing it, and knowing that we're helping people and connect people, and some people are buying a gratitude journal, which is awesome. And so let us know, and anything else, any subjects that you want us to address or any questions that you have, let us know, and we're happy to get to those. But appreciate you, Erin, for commenting and making us smile, definitely. And we do respond. Right now, we're not so big that we can't respond to everybody. So you get a response from both of us. Sage within about 5 minutes, and me within a week. Okay. And then Dylan Barbone, who has commented several times and written in on the Gmail with some really, really great stuff. And he commented on the crazy loop, but I think hot take, but I think he was really talking about episode 17, which was Max Stoke on each ride and how to get Max Stoke. And so he wrote, Stoke is contagious. And he was asking if what we recommended as far as like learning skills. And he told me he lives near Mountain Creek. And I said, what about the TrailBoss Academy? And so he went and he did the TrailBoss Academy. Jeff Lenosky, who is a world famous, amazing mountain biker, also known as the TrailBoss on YouTube. You can look up his channels and there is a TrailSage crossover with Jeff Lenosky in Arizona on the Holbert Trail. So Dylan went and he did the lesson with the TrailBoss Academy, and he said that it was he learned a lot, but seeing everyone's stoke just like increase as the weekend went on, as they practiced more and more things and started unlocking more and more things, progressing more and more things, overcoming obstacles, what we've been talking about, right? Overcoming obstacles on the bike and just getting more and more excited. And that's what we want. We want that on the trails. We want that in life. Just be excited. And what's going to go right for me next? What am I going to learn next? That everything's going so well. That's the vibe that we want to hold. And then he also says that he's started to adopt some of these concepts into his regular life, his non-riding life. So that's really awesome because that's what we're talking about.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. So he's talking about the instructors, Jeff and Brian, and then we get a comment from Brian on a bike, your buddy Brian, who is the other instructor. So small world, and he says, Dylan, it was such a great weekend. You killed it. The Stoke was real. Ride and Laugh podcast, connecting riders from afar. So Dylan did the skills class because of the podcast, and Brian then meets Dylan, and they have the podcast in common. And I just thought that was awesome. So gotta shout that out. Yeah, and Brian's YouTube is B&E
MTB. That's him and his wife.
MTB.
And
that's he and his wife.
Listen, that just goes to show you how talented of a rider he is, that he's an instructor with Jeff. Like, dude is a talented rider. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I was blown away by that. I'm not surprised because what you said, but
he's really skilled.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, he's instructing at Mountain Creek with Jeff Lenosky. Like, pretty cool. I totally want to ride with him, and he can give me some pointers for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
If he would do that, if he would do. He's like, well, each pointer is $25, so this is gonna be an expensive ride for you. It's gonna be pretty expensive for you,
Yes.
So, all right. Tell me about. I saw because I'm out of town for 2 weekends, so that's 2 Sunday rides that we're not doing together. So I saw last week you took the single speed to Mount Penn. You gave a tour to Stick. Well, Stick knows his way around, and a couple of his buddies. But it looked to me like you were doing some pretty high consequence tech on the single speed.
Yeah. We got into what did I do on the single speed for the first time? I can't remember now. Shoot. The ride is totally a blur.
Was it Cliff Clavin?
That's it. Thank you. Yes. Oh, you weren't even on the ride and you know it better than I do. That's so funny. Yes.
I saw the picture and I was like, he did not take his single speed up on that ledge.
I did, no joke. Yeah, I did not the opening section of No Joke, but that Cliff Clavin into that little part of the skinny.
I couldn't believe that you were doing that high consequence tech at Mount Penn. That is awesome on the single speed. How did it feel?
I'm about ready to get my IBIS back, bud. My back is like back and my legs are like, dude, you prove that you could do it. Can we get the old bike back, please? Like,
Universe, Universe. Thank you very much. I've learned a lot on my single speed.
I did,
and I've learned a lot, and I've gotten stronger. And now I am ready to receive my full suspension bike back into my garage. I'm ready to release my single speed energy, even though that woman last week, she saw those single speed quads, and
I gotta tell you, yep.
Yeah. Another reason to keep single speeding. So, I had a Father's Day ride planned on Sunday.
Yes.
And my wife was like, it's Father's Day. You go for your ride. I ride solo out here. I don't know anybody, but I've ridden enough places and I know my way around, and I use my trail forks, and I got my bike computer. And so I got the car, I got everything all packed up. I'm ready to go in the morning. It's super hot out here. We're in June and it's already really hot. It's in the Phoenix area, and no chamois. So I had mountain bike shirt. I had mountain bike shorts. I did not have the chamois, which is like the Lycra with the padded bottom. And anyone that's mountain biked without those, let us know. Listener, does anybody ride without chamois? Maybe just dirt jumping if you're not really sitting. But I was thinking about it. Like, do I go anyway? And ultimately, I decided not to. I had also strained my lower back from probably doing too much pump track and then immediately deadlifting earlier in the week. And so this just like, this doesn't feel like a great idea. And so I went with the flow. I forgot the chamois. I actually thought they were already out here. It was a big miscommunication between my previous self and my current self. I had written down on my list, chamois are out there. And then when I got here, they weren't here. So, current self was like, why didn't I just bring a pair anyway? They're like the smallest thing to pack. But really nonetheless, I could have them delivered the next day. The brand that we wear, the Bay Leaf brand, which TrailSage has done a review on. They're very affordable, very, very high quality. Amazon could get them out here the next day. And so I you know what? Let me just go with the flow. I'm not supposed to ride today. I give my back another day to heal. Went out to breakfast with my family. I had a lovely time. That day, the chamois were delivered. And so the next day, I went out to Gold Canyon and I went for my ride. And I have done this double black line before, but I've never ridden it. And there's a double black climb that leads up to 2 options. The trail's Hoodoo. And if you go left, there's, which is what I've usually done. It's one of these like desert trails where it's all rock and you're following the white dots. Yeah. And I knew that you could kind of go right also. And on Trail Forks, that's called Cojones. So I was like, well, let me see if I can try the Cojones line. And so I find it. Last time I was here, I couldn't find it. So I find where it is. And if you're watching on the video, and I don't know that we'll be able to play the whole thing because it's a 3-minute technical downhill trail. I sent it to Sage so that he could see it because I was going to talk about it. It is so incredibly legit. It is so incredibly legit. And so the reason I couldn't find it is because it like goes off to the right and then almost over a cliff. And I was just like, all right, let me just get into it and see how I feel. I'm by myself, so I'm usually very cautious when I'm doing high consequence stuff. There's not that many people at this park at all. There was one other car in the parking lot. It was Monday morning, but I just felt really good. I felt really confident, and I just went with the flow of it. And man, it is steep and gnarly and chunky, and then steep again. And there's big moves and big slabs. I dabbed for like a half a second on at one part. I mean, it's just really, really, really hard. But if you can't hear the audio if we play it on the podcast, obviously. But I'm, I'm talking all the way through it, just like commit. You got this, and I'm also kind of just hooting and hollering to myself, like, oh my God, this is so cool. This is so cool. And at one point, I don't know if you heard that, I was like, Sage is going to love this. So
I did hear that.
I can't wait to get you out here and show you that Cojones line. And then we can try the other line also. Gold Canyon has a lot of black trails, but it only has like these few pro lines. So like we were talking about earlier, if you seek it out, it's there. You know where to look. It's there. This is a total spur trail. You have to go out of your way to get to this thing. Yeah. And the climb getting up to this Cojones technical downhill, the climb getting up to it is incredibly hard. It's a double black climb. It's off camber. It's switchbacks. It's maximum moves. I mean, you could strike a pedal on some of these off camber rocks. Off camber means that it's not flat. And I did really well on that part. Getting into it, and that I don't always do that. I don't always ride that well. I usually ride that part and then walk some of like the scarier downhill parts. And this day I just felt good. My wife was watching the video over my shoulder and she was like, "Oh my God."
yeah, that was my impression too. You sent me the videos, and I'm watching it, and I know GoPro effect, and this looks scary. Watching it, and I was like, okay, if this looks scary on the GoPro, this must be 100% legit in real life. It is so steep, and it does show. It does show. I'm so glad that you got that DJI because it's the quality is fantastic. You have it positioned the right way, and I was literally rooting for you. That's not like I'm not blowing smoke up your rear end. I was literally like, yeah, Danny, awesome. yeah. Like it was so great. I mean, it is 100% legit double black tech for sure. Yes.
Oh yeah. It's really cool. So like if you're on the East Coast and you were to come to the Southwest, like that's the kind of stuff that's here. Where you just have these big giant slabs and everything's built on rock and white dots show you where to go. And so we've talked about going to Utah and some of these places, where there's going to be more and more of that. And that's definitely on the bucket list. I don't know where to go first. Not Bentonville, I guess, because, but maybe Bentonville. Listeners, what do you think about Bentonville? Let us know. What do you think we would think about Bentonville? I mean, I hear that there's something for everyone there, but that's a separate pod, and we'll talk about where we're going to go.
Yes, right? I'm not opposed to Bentonville. I just don't want to spend an entire week there. I'd probably do like 1 or 2 days in Bentonville. But what I hear is all the raw trails outside of Bentonville are legit, like super gnar. And that's the kind of stuff that excites me. I don't get excited about the man-made stuff. I want to do drop the hammer.
Well, when I say Bentonville, I mean all of it. The stuff for outside of it and inside.
Yeah, that's just
okay. All right. Anyways, so there's some really cool things at Gold Canyon. If you know where to look, I wonder what else is there that I don't even know about. So there's some cool things there.
Man, I can't wait to go. I
look forward to taking you.
I cannot wait to go. Yeah, for sure.
And then today I rode the National Trail and talking about doing something that you visualize. There's a downhill. But you can actually go up or down it on the National Trail, a feature called the Waterfall. Going up it is is like so crazy hard. And then going down it is just scary. It's you're like kind of like going over a cliff and you have to stay on the line really well. And I was scared. I mean, for years, not that I've ridden National Trail that many times, but we've had this place for like 5 years and we'll come out a few times a year. And so I'd always get the National Trail and I would just walk it. I would just walk it and I would just walk it. I would just walk it. And then I never rode it until you were here. Yeah. And we came out here and then you didn't even look at it. You just like flowed right into it and I just followed you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But it was one of those things that like, it was in my head because it was scary. So like it remained scary. It remained scary in my head. And I stopped riding it after you left. I was just kept walking it. Yeah. Yeah. And now I have the Firebird, and the Firebird just like really inspires. The Pivot just inspires so much confidence. And so I was riding really well. There was a whole bunch of other things that I was just like feeling really good on and taking alt lines, and there's more alt lines I have to show you, and more slabs, and South Mountain is incredible. Like what an awesome place. So this is like Phoenix's Wissahickon, but
that's right.
Instead it's like mostly there's so many black lines with pro line alternates. Like, I mean, this is it's just it's what they have in the Southwest here. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. So I get to the waterfall downhill and I was visualizing it. I was thinking about it, and I didn't stop and look at it this time. I almost always stop and look at it, and I just flowed right into it, and I just committed, and I went right down it, and it was no problem. You know, just an obstacle overcome. So felt really good.
Yes. Unfortunately, I heard that they came in and they removed all the rocks from the waterfall. So next time you go, it's just going to be just a mound of flowy
dirt over it. Yeah. There's actually going to be, they're tunneling underneath it. So the easy line, you'll actually just drop into a tunnel. There's a very wide elevator that will take you down. I will take very wide. That'll take you down to the bottom of the trail. So, and yeah, that was it was a good day. It was a good day.
Well, should we go into our gratitude, I guess?
Yes, we should go into our gratitudes. Absolutely.
All right, go ahead, man. Lead it off.
All right. Well, my mountain bike gratitude of the week is a place out here that my wife found, and it's called Platinum Soul. And this place is awesome. So my wife is very much into healing and health and fitness, and it's very important for her to heal. I'll get into that in some other episode. But she found this place, and she's able to do sauna, which we do at home. But when she's out here, it's very important for her to continue to be able to do her sauna. And then they also have like red light treatments, which is really cool. So there's also this red light therapy. If you know about that, that can really help also. But they have something that I have never done before, and I've always been really curious about, and that is cold plunge. Oh, so no. They're like tubs of water. They're at 41 degrees.
Nope.
And you get in this. And my wife, who hates the cold, has been doing this. She's been out here for a little bit, and I came out to visit. And she's been doing these. And so she encouraged me to do it. Let me tell you, this is a shock to the system like I have never experienced. I think I'm a pretty tough guy. I got in that water. All I wanted to do was get out. If she wasn't sitting there watching me, I would have just like gotten out right away. Yeah. But she coached me through it. And I stayed in for about 3.5 minutes the first time. 2 minutes is like God kind of the minimum. And we've been back 2 more times, and I'm up over 5 minutes. And it gets easier as you go. Like it's always hard, but now you know what to expect. But the health benefits are like, supposed to be enormous as far as anti-inflammatory and all these other things that Joe Rogan does one every morning. Like it's supposed to be really good for you. And I feel amazing afterwards. So This place, Platinum Soul, is like right around the corner from us. The people there have been super, super cool, super nice. I'll put a link in the description. But they got sauna, they got red light, and they got cold plunge, and you can do all 3 and be out in like 45 minutes to have it all done, or maybe even less, depending on how you want to do it. But man, the cold plunge it's just really, really interesting. And I'm really, really happy that I got to do it. I'm really happy that my wife's doing it, and I feel really good afterwards. So we'll see where it goes. But it was very cool.
Well, that is amazing. You will never find me in a cold plunge, my friend. You have tried to convince me many a time to take a cold shower. I can't do it. So God bless you.
Honestly, that sounds weird. Why would I be convincing you to take a cold shower?
Because you have always been preaching the benefits of these shocking temperature things. And it's just like, I can't do it. Yes. I cannot do it. Yes.
I know.
I would love to, but
I was joking because the context of wanting to go take a cold shower is usually because that's how you get a man to calm down because it was too excited. Like, hey, why don't you go take a cold shower? And you're like, you're always trying to get me to take a cold shower. Like, well, yeah, for the anti-inflammatory effects, not because he's too excited about, polishing his top tube.
I was going to go mountain biking with Dan, but all right, if you're going polishing top tube, shoot. Yes. Well, listen, my gratitude is much more simple. I'm gratitude. I am grateful for my minivan.
I love it.
I've had it for quite some time. It's taken us on a million trips all over.
Yep.
We've gone up and down the East Coast, but I love that van, man. It's been so special to me. And thank you, Honda Odyssey, for taking me on all of my adventures. So that is my gratitude.
To the shores of Tripoli. That van has been awesome. It's been a reliable vehicle for you, but it is a mountain bike road trip machine. I mean, we pack it full of bikes and gear, and we just go from location to location. And if you're staying at hotels, you can just leave your bikes in there. You don't have to worry about bringing them into the hotel. If your bikes are on a bike rack outside the car, right, you worry about them getting stolen or you got to bring them into the hotel. But when you get the minivan, everything just stays in there. And so, that minivan has been awesome. And I certainly have reaped the benefits of you having a minivan. You also love to drive. So that's really cool that you have the minivan and you love to drive. So I have gratitude towards your Honda Odyssey as well. And towards you for all the driving that you've done. It's been a great car for our friendship. Yeah,
it really has. Absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Well, what's my
mountain bike tip? Yes, the mountain bike tip of the week. I don't think I did this one before, but if I did, I apologize. When you take your camera out, and I've already changed Dan's camera. If you've ridden with me, I've already changed your phone, and I'm about to change yours as well. Get yourself on 4K, of course, but get yourself on 60 frames a second. And the reason why is you can slow the footage down. And that is absolutely crucial. First of all, if you want to get stills out of your video, but more importantly, if you're looking to study your footage, being able to slow it down frame by frame really makes a huge difference. So go through your camera settings, make sure it's on 4K, and then make sure that you're shooting at 60 frames a second, at least. Some cameras will go up to 120. I think that's going to take up too much file size on your phone. So I think 60 frames will just be plenty. That's all you need. But that is my mountain bike tip. It's more of a photography tip.
Excellent tip. Something I did not know until I met Sage, who has a YouTube channel. So he's very aware of all these things. But that's an excellent tip as far as maximizing the video that you get of yourself mountain biking or your buddies mountain biking and maximizing Stoke. That's what it's all about. So you get that good high quality video. Yeah, I love it. And by the way, I have used one of your mountain bike tips that I didn't know about. If listener, if you recall Sage's tip on how to get the air out of your bladder, your water bladder.
That's sloshing, yes.
And so you can go back and listen to all the previous episodes. I'm not sure which one it was. You have to listen to them all if you haven't gotten it. But there's good tips in all of these. This is your first episode. You've missed a lot of good tips. Go back and download and listen to them all. But I have removed the air, the sloshing from my bladder, and it's awesome. It worked great. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, right on.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you're still listening, you are definitely one of us. You love mountain biking. We appreciate you. Gratitude to you, listener. And go ahead and rate and subscribe on your podcast player. Set us to auto downloads and rate and subscribe on YouTube, Feel free to throw a comment in there, even if you just that you're enjoying the pod. Everything helps the algorithm.
Hey.
But no matter what you do, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you riding your bike. We appreciate you having fun. The Stoke is high. Ride and laugh. Everyone have a great week.
I'll see you, everyone.